picture, lock it up. Roll camera.
Rolling.
In this series, we're going to show you how to host epic dinner party movie screenings.
It's showtime!
Roll sound.
With recipes to eat along with your favourite characters.
Someone's having a party tonight. Oh, yeah.
We are on in 5, 4, 3.
Welcome to a film club like no other.
Dinner is served. Action.
Dinner and a movie. We're kicking off this series with the ultimate family-friendly foodie film.
Dinner time is family time.
Matilda really is a feast for the eyes, with 3 food references in the first 4 minutes. To kick off our cinematic spread, we've grouped these together to create a delicious trio of canapes.
Had they paid any attention to her at all, they'd have realized she was a rather extraordinary child.
Oh my gosh, Matilda, now look what you did.
They named her Matilda.
You're supposed to eat the spinach. Ew. Ew, 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 ew.
I've got 200 grams of baby spinach here, and I'm going to wilt that in a large saucepan over a medium-low heat. You don't need any fat or any additional liquid in the pot, just keep things moving in there. We've taken inspo from Mrs. Wormwood here and are celebrating pureed spinach in all its glory. Once that's all nicely wilted down, drain it and strain it. Passing it through a cheesecloth will pull out all that bright green water. Once it's nice and dry, stick it in a food processor. Now we've removed one green liquid, we'll put in another one. A tablespoon of decent olive oil goes in, with a clove of minced garlic and half an onion, roughly chopped. Blitz that up until it's nice and smooth. Break in an egg and 100 grams of feta. Now we want to go in with our seasoning. A crack of black pepper, a dash of nutmeg, half a teaspoon of salt, and a few chilli flakes to taste. And wazz it up until it's smoother than Harry Wormwood's brain.
I want respect and I want it now. Oh.
A canape tray produces the perfect bite-sized morsel, but you can of course supersize this in a muffin tray. If like me you enjoy getting berated for buying too much cooking equipment, you can find links to all the kit I'm using in the description box. I've got 3 sheets of phyllo here, stacked on top of each other. For my tray, 10cm pastry squares were the perfect size, so I need this cut into 12 pieces. To make the little pastry cup, we're going to layer 3 pastry pieces on top of one another. So take one piece, brush that with oil, then add another piece at an angle. The canape tray I'm using came with this handy little tool that helps you form the perfect shape, but you could improvise with a pestle or the handle of a wooden spoon. Push the pastry down to create a little cup. This recipe makes 12 little canapes, so I like to space them out and give them room to peacock their little pastry tails. For this size of pastry cup, pipe in about a tablespoon of the spinach filling. The egg in the mixture means that it will expand as it cooks, so make sure you don't get greedy and overfill. Throw them in the oven at 160 fan for 20 to 25 minutes, then uncover them and bake them for another 5.
and her mother took off to play bingo.
Soup's on the stove. Heat it up if you get hungry.
Matilda was left alone. That was how she liked it.
Using shot glasses is a great way of making soup canapé appropriate. It's the perfect serving size and hopefully mess-free, as you can drink straight from the glass. You can use store-bought soup to ease the workload, but if extra is your middle name and you want to make your own, the full recipe is on our website, linked in the description box. Up the fancy with a swirl of basil oil and a sprinkling of mini croutons, and even Matilda wouldn't want to throw this soup out. A sweet Shortstack for starters is a bit much even for me, so we've gone for a nod to the legendary Matilda pancakes with these savoury bites. Blinis topped with a horseradish creme fraiche and smoked salmon are a marriage made in heaven. If, like us, you want to punish yourselves and make your own, the recipe is linked in the description box.
From now on, this family does exactly what I say, exactly when I say it.
Here's your hat, Harry.
Give me the hat. And right now, we are eating dinner and watching TV.
Grab yourself a carrot, an onion and a stick of celery. These are just flavour bombs. They're not for eating, so don't worry about peeling them. Hack them up and stick them in a large pot. I've got a 1 kilo gammon joint here. Stick that on top of the veggies. Chuck in a bay leaf and a tablespoon of peppercorns. And we're going to pour in enough water to cover the meat. Bring that up to a boil. Once it's boiling, cover it, reduce the heat and simmer it for 45 minutes. Turn off the heat and leave the meat to relax in its little porky bath for 20 minutes. Unfortunately, John Ham's spa day has come to an end, so pull him out of the bath and discard the broth and the veggies. At this stage, John can chill in the fridge overnight, so you can prep to this point the day before, and then come back and finish him off later.
That's what she said.
The meat is now chilled and relaxed, so it's easy to handle. This tough outer layer of skin needs to be removed, so gently peel it back and make sure you don't rip the fat off with it. We want to keep the fat intact. Score the fat so that the meat keeps its shape when roasting. Going full 1970s crisscross vibes suits Matilda nicely. To guarantee a beautiful caramelised crust, we need to add sugar to the outside. I've got a lovely spicy hot honey for the glaze, but in lieu of that you could just use regular honey mixed with Dijon mustard or hot sauce. Then this goes into a 180 fan oven for 35 to 40 minutes until it's golden brown. A simple parsley sauce is the perfect retro finishing touch to this dish. Make a roux with equal quantities of butter and flour. A tablespoon of each will do it. Melt down the butter and then chuck in the flour. This needs to be cooked down for a couple of minutes. We don't want it to taste of raw flour. 250 millilitres of milk goes in. Add slowly whilst whisking to prevent lumps. We want this to come to a simmer for a few minutes until it thickens and coats the back of a spoon. Now we have a basic white sauce, I'm going to flavour this with a squeeze of lemon juice, half a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, salt and pepper, with a handful of finely chopped parsley. To really set the scene, you can pick up a vintage TV tray like this one on Etsy or eBay. Can't forget those pineapple slices on top. Using tinned fruit really leans into that retro aesthetic. I'm serving this with a celeriac mash, but you could do potato if you prefer. And of course some baby carrots and peas in homage to another classic Matilda moment.
A dip face. Have a carrot.
Here we go. Smells chocolatey, eh? Now, eat it.
I don't want any. Thank you.
Grease a 6-inch cake tin and line the bottom with a piece of greaseproof paper. I'm not feeding a large crowd, so I'm making a small cake today, but you can scale up the recipe to satisfy any bog trotter. Starting off with our dry ingredients. Sift together 100 grams of plain flour with 20 grams of cocoa powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, the same of bicarb, and half a teaspoon of salt. I've got a mixture here of 60 grams of light brown sugar and 60 grams of caster sugar. Mix that all together. Next, we need our wet ingredients. Do this in a measuring jug so that it's easier to pour it in later. We need 100 millilitres of soured cream and 100 millilitres of vegetable oil. Chocolate cake can be as dry as Prince Andrew's armpits.
Ew.
But this combo of fats will give us a lighter and more moist sponge than if we used butter. Crack in 1 large egg, 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and finally a shot of espresso. This will just enhance the flavour of the chocolate, it's not going to turn it into a coffee cake. Then slowly pour the wet ingredients into the dry and hit it with an electric hand mixer. This goes into a 160 fan oven for 40 to 45 minutes until a skewer comes out clean. I love ganache. It's so simple to make and so effective. You just need a 2-to-1 ratio of chocolate to cream. I've got 200 grams of dark chocolate here, so I'll need 100 millilitres of double cream. Heat the cream gently. We want this to reach the point where small bubbles are just beginning to form. If the cream is too hot, then the chocolate will split and we can't come back from that. If it's too cold though, it won't melt. We want our chocolate in little pieces so that it melts quickly. So there we've got a couple of little bubbles in there. That's perfect. Pour over the chocolate and just leave it. Let it sit for a couple of minutes so that the chocolate can melt. If you start messing around with it and moving it around, it will just cool down the cream, so you've got to be patient. I'm going to add a little pinch of salt to bring out the flavour of the chocolate and give it a mix. Get that in the fridge for a couple of hours to set up before it's ready to spread. You can simplify things by just making extra ganache to sandwich between your layers, but if you strive for authenticity, then take 100 grams of unsalted room temperature butter and blitz that up for a couple of minutes until it's light and fluffy. You want to see a change in colour here. It should become paler as the butter is whipped and aerated. This is 150 grams of icing sugar and 50 grams of cocoa powder. Add that in a spoonful at a time. A teaspoon of vanilla extract goes in, and 2 tablespoons of milk to loosen it a bit so it's a spreadable consistency. Now we're ready to assemble. We want 3 layers of sponge here to mimic the Crunch'em Hall classic. A cake slicer like this makes it really easy to get even layers. I picked this one up in IKEA years ago, but there are similar ones linked below. Take half the buttercream and spread that over the first layer with a palette knife. And then same again. I've had this ganache out of the fridge coming up to room temperature for about half an hour, so it's a good spreadable consistency. And we want that spread all over the sides and the top of the cake. Some little swirls in the ganache finish it off nicely. And that's it. Time to do Bruce Bogtrotter proud. And that's all, folks. Tablescape ideas, full recipes and time codes of when to serve each course are available on our website, linked in the description box. Remember, the first rule of Bite Club is, you talk about Bite Club.